Welcome to the most passionate content for card collectors on YouTube and possibly the whole entire internet. I am your host, Jake Roy, 90s Bball cards here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a little bit of TikTok. I promise I'm getting back. I'm doing a little bit of a re-strategizing of what I want to do on TikTok, so I'll get back there sooner or later. So today I'm really excited. We've got another great interview in our series of collector interviews. So I think this is the third one that I've done. So trying to keep up with those once per month. So today we've got Chris McGill from House of Jordans and Card Ladder. You've probably seen him on many other of the content creators that you go to for sports cards and basketball cards. And we have had some time to chat on live streams and such, but we have not had a chance to sit down and do one of these formal one-on-ones. So I thought it was well overdue to have Chris on and chat about some big breaking news. So we've got breaking news in today's video about the House of Jordans podcast. We've got breaking news about PSA. We've got breaking news about another PMG Green Jordan coming up. We've also got some news about Card Ladder on there. So lots of new information. You know, it shows that as many times as you've seen a guest on a podcast, there's always new things to talk about and new information, new experiences to share. So hopefully you really enjoy this. I really enjoyed the conversation. So let's get right into it. All right, Chris, thank you for jumping in. I know we kind of planned this a little bit last minute, so I really appreciate you jumping in. And I know that a lot of folks are familiar with you. And actually, when I was thinking about us jumping on the phone together, I realized we've done some episodes together, live streams, and you've kind of made your rounds on hobby shows, but I haven't had you on for like a one-on-one interview. So I think that this is only appropriate. You know, one of the most well-known hobby content creators in the game, if not the most well-known, finally getting your chance to shine, right? Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you for having me. Apologies to the audience in advance. I'm sure everybody is very sick of hearing my voice and looking at me. But nonetheless, Jake has done me the courtesy of letting me come on 90s Bball cards. And it's an honor, dude, because in the summer of 2018, I was so into cards by that point in time. I'd been back in the hobby for 2 years, and it was trying to find hobby content. You know, it was trying to find water in a desert, and I was on our yearly family vacation that we all get together during normal years in northern Wisconsin, and during the ride up there from Illinois, where my family normally is, to Wisconsin, I was looking for content to listen to, sports card content, and I found 90s Bball cards on YouTube, and I watched every video you'd put out on the drive up, and then I watched them again on the ride home after the week was over. And, you know, on the one hand, there was not a lot of content out there, so not many choices, but I couldn't think of a better set of content for me, because it was you were opening these niche 90s products, and that was the lane of cards that I was so immersed in and still love, and it's still my passion. So and then to see how far your channel has come, and you're opening iPhones now. We made it. We made it. So I know, but in all seriousness, to see how far you've come, it's amazing, dude. And you know, it's funny too, because the first we did it was really cool to get to know you after I had been consuming your content for so long. And then the first time we did a live stream was a PMG Green when it was auctioning through PWCC. And look, there's another PMG Green coming down the pike here in a few days. So I don't know, a lot of coincidences, small world. That's my long way of saying thanks a lot for having me on, dude.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for the dual views. I appreciate that. You know, people who rewatch content are what keeps us going. So, and thank you, because some of those early videos were rough. I've gone back and watched them a few times, and I'm like, man, if I knew what I knew now,
things could be different. But I appreciate you being there with me from day one of the day ones, so I always appreciate it. So while we're talking about content, I have to ask, I think this is probably the elephant in the room. What has happened to the House of Jordans podcast? When is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? We miss you. And I feel as though the House of Jordans, I was looking at it on iTunes, is one of just a handful of hobby podcasts that has a lot of reviews, and all of them average out to 5 stars. I think, you're up there with the Basketball Card Podcast, Fat Packs, Stacking Slabs, and Wax Museum for 5-star content. So what can you tell us about the House of Jordans podcast?
Well, don't let the iTunes reviews deceive you, because those were 90% of them were induced by a giveaway that we did. So those are not organic reviews. Those are people who were very kind and who obviously listened to the show at some point in order to leave a review, but they were induced by the allure of winning something. But I say that, but we're extremely appreciative of anybody who took the time to leave a review, and it was amazing to see that. But okay, so as you know, part of the reason even why we're doing this show tonight is just because sometimes we don't have time over the course of a week to put in the research and the production on the front end and the back end to make quality content to the standard that we want. And so when we started working on Card Ladder, I immediately went full time on that project. And the thing about it is that full time meant every free moment was spent, and still continues to be spent, trying to do something that helps build that business. So what that meant was, the typical House of Jordans episode, the way it worked was because we eventually got to weekly episodes for like a few months there. And throughout the course of the week, I would have a notepad file open, and whenever I would just be like watching TV or relaxing or something, like, or just chatting with people in the hobby, I would start typing in ideas for shows. And then by the time the week was over, I would have like maybe 10 or 20 ideas. And then I would sit down and take like 6 to 8 hours, and I would pick like 4 of them, and I would research them in detail. If I needed to like research a card sales history, research the set information, research something, I would do it, and then I would write like a script. And I think Christina has like posted some of the scripts on her Instagram before. I mean, they got up to 15 pages. So it would take a day to prepare an episode, and then it would take a few hours to record it. And then we started the video component, and so we would have to send those video files to my brother, who would edit them and put them together. And then I had to edit the audio, and he edited the video. And before you know it, these are 3 to 4 day productions. And, it's funny, like, as a law student, which is a very time-consuming endeavor, I had time to do this. But now that I'm a lowly researcher on a startup company, I don't. Something got mixed up there somehow, and I don't know what happened, but the flip side is that it's amazing to be able to basically research sports cards for a living. So that's pretty awesome. But that's the long and the short of it with House of Jordans. And so what I tried to do was I tried to convert House of Jordans into an interview show, because I just figured I will, instead of having to do this research, instead of having to do any production, I'll just turn on StreamYard, and I'll have great guests on. I'll just lean on them to provide information, and I'll just come up with some topics, and we'll go from there. But even that became like a time thing that I found myself being like, as much as I love making this content, I'm uncomfortable with not producing it. It's not video, so like there's not even that component to it, and I don't have the hours to spare right now, especially like in the early going. So with that said, however, one content substitute that I've been able to do is every Friday night, and night just works good because like I've been able to work all day. I can, cut loose a little bit, or whatever the phrase is. But on Friday nights on Instagram Live, Josh from Cardboard Chronicles and I do 2 hours of live shows. The first hour is more formal. We don't have to think of any of the topics. We get people who write in questions, and we answer the questions and kind of just riff. And then the second hour gets really informal. Josh has usually had 2 to 3 White Claws by the time that episode gets going. And we turn like on the first episode, the camera's facing away from us. So, we're showing cards or we're showing research we're doing or whatever. The second hour, we turn the cameras on ourselves. We relax. We joke around. We get into weird discussions and debates. Like last week, we debated Anthony Davis or Giannis. Who's better? That was the debate that we had. And I said Giannis, but he and most of the chat said AD. So that was interesting. So that content stream is out there, right? If you just want to listen to me, or probably more people tune in to listen to Josh, honestly, because he has the better takes. I'm just the vanilla guy who's just, well, the data says this. And
he's got like those one-liners that, get Instagram headlines.
Yes, he does. So that happens, but I can share a little bit of news here.
Okay, so exclusive news.
Exclusive news. So, and Christina's always sitting right next to me, because I'm in our office area right now, and she's always sitting right next to me, usually researching while I'm recording. But she has started chiming in on the episodes, and now I get messages from people that's like, and she gets messages too, and people are like, "You're the best part of the show, Christina," and so she always steals the show, right? She always steals the limelight. And so we all have the itch and the appetite to make content again. And now that we're in proximity with my brother, who's a video producer, we can actually get together. And so we will have YouTube content, original YouTube content, coming soon. So, and it will be Card Ladder branded. So I can say that. I'm very excited to do it. And just stay tuned. Gonna have to find a couple of 25-hour days in the week to make it happen. But that's the very long answer to what happened to House of Jordans, and I'll never say that it's not coming back. I would love for it to come back, but it has to be done the right way, and it has to be at a point where I can dedicate the amount of time to it to make it at the level it once was at.
Awesome. So you heard it here first. There is some sort of content coming. Is it going to be Chris and Christina? Can we at least enjoy that dual combination?
You will be able to enjoy that dual combination.
All right. Beautiful. So we'll look forward to that. Maybe that'll be our Christmas gift, New Year's gift. It'll be a gift at some point coming up. So we'll all wait with bated breath for that. I'm excited. I know a lot of people will be excited to see that. And whatever the evolution of that content is, I'm sure will also be exciting because, as you said in the beginning, all of our content evolves over time. I started off, I think my first episode, I was ripping 98, 99 tops, and the last couple episodes have been top 10s or unboxing an iPhone. So, things change over time.
I remember when you, me, and Kyle were chatting, and you first introduced your multi-views and cuts. Yep. And I was like, it hit me when I saw that for the first time on your channel. Because, change can be incremental, and you don't really see it as it's happening. But, like, when you had introduced that, and I was like, damn, this guy, now he's got this crazy set, looks nothing like anybody else on YouTube. Full of, as you say, the most passionate show, and it's there, dude, because it's in all the memorabilia, all the collectibles. It's literally the visual evidence is undeniable. And now you're cutting, and you have angles, and it's impressive that you do all that, because I couldn't do all that. And B, I just had a moment of realization just to think about kind of how we had all evolved as a content creating community. And I know how much time goes into your show as well. And so, coming from somebody who is a content creator dropout, I respect it, dude, and I respect the grind immensely.
I'd say it's a content creator sabbatical.
There we go. I like that sabbatical.
Yeah, and I think we all pushed continue pushing each other to continue to make different and better and innovative content that'll provide value. I know I was talking to Josh around Thanksgiving and thanking him for, coming along when he did and pushing me to continue improving and stuff, and say, okay, as soon as we get competition, it's how do we continue to either stay on top or beat the competition, or just improve ourselves to stay, in the game. So, it's a rising tide raises all boats, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, that's the theme of the hobby over the last few years, I'd say. But it's also important that as you kind of allude to, and I want to make explicit, it's important that we keep our history straight too. The content landscape, once for basketball cards, it literally was just you and Josh. I mean, that was it. There may have been others that I wasn't aware of, so I don't want to say anything incorrect because I don't know what I don't know. But from my searching, and it was extensive, the only basketball card focused content out there when I was like really starting to devour it in 2018, it was you and Josh. So that's such an important part of the hobby's history, is that like content creation gets traced back to that. And then I remember, me and Kyle, the House of Jordans and Wax Museum came along a little bit later in 2018. So then there was 4 of us, right? And we were all,
yep.
And then, and Adam, and the basketball card pod, like that was, God, I don't know. I believe he was doing that in 2015 and definitely in 2016 because that's when I first stumbled upon it. And then he took a sabbatical.
Yep.
And now he's back too. So, the history of this stuff matters too, and that's why I love that the OGs are still in full effect pushing out content. Keep it up, dude. It means a lot to the community that you do what you do.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and I think continue on the train of hobby content. One of the channels that came out that seems to have taken a hiatus. I don't know if they're going to come back at some point. That really, when they came out, I was like, oh man, their production game has got me beat by a mile. And they actually gave me a shout out in their last video, which I think was like a year ago now. Was the MJ Pull?
I knew you were going to go there. Yes, yeah. Sir. Shout out to the MJ Pull.
Yeah, their production quality is incredible. And I remember when I was first, starting my content, I saw the Pack Geek. So Jeff's got a great show, and he rips packs from all different kinds of sports, and his production is also incredible. But he also has a film production company, so that is kind of his expertise. And I'm like, okay, I'll never be the Pack Geek. I'll never be able to do that. Like you said, it's a one-man show. I record it, I edit it, I do everything. But when I saw the MJ Pull, I was like, I really need to try to push myself to the furthest end of my talent as possible. So we all push each other.
Well said, man. Very well said.
All right. So I think another piece of news. So we're recording this. It is Monday, right? Yep. Okay. Monday, Cyber Monday. So when you're watching this might be a little bit of old news, but I think the news of the day in the hobby is about PSA. So we just learned that PSA was, and you probably have better verbiage than I do on this, Chris, but they were acquired, or they were, the controlling stake of that was taken by a group of investors that includes or is headlined by Nat Turner. So there's a lot for us to learn, but I can say that's the big news of the day. I personally am very excited. It feels like we kind of have an advocate on that side, somebody who is now going to be on both ends. But I think that we'd be remiss not to at least touch on that. So what are your initial thoughts on that big breaking news?
Just what you said. To have Nat Turner makes and usher the hobby into what looks like is going to be a whole new era is, it's the holiday gift of the year, or I don't know. And also to think that somebody or this group of investors would bet this big on the hobby and on us is just such a vote of confidence in and a recognition not only of how amazing our hobby is, but how bright the future might be. So to see that happen, I don't think it's fully sunk in with me yet, just how profound this is and how far-reaching its implications could be. So I'm just kind of waiting and watching. We're also just at this like announcement phase. There's hoops will have to be jumped through, and I's will have to be dotted, T's will have to be crossed, details need to be ironed out and stuff as far as I can tell. So there's not going to be any immediate gratification here in terms of, at least as far as I can tell, in terms of like, is anything tangible going to change over the next month or two? I probably not. Like, our expectation probably should be not. But I can tell from talking to collectors and hobbyists that there is a wave of enthusiasm and optimism about what this means, having a figurehead and maybe the greatest collector ever. Like, I don't know how we would measure that, but Nat is definitely one of the very few names. We'll say the Mount Rushmore of collectors. Like, as far as guys who collect stuff like you and me anyway, he's tough to beat, and he's definitely up there. So to have that guy be spearheading and become a figurehead of maybe the most important space in the hobby, grading, in the most important space that has immediate ways that lots of collectors feel it could improve. And so for him to step into that lane potentially, I mean, I could just, the energy in the hobby was just so positive and optimistic and just happy today, for lack of a better word. So yeah, it's like, it's almost too good to be true. It's like one of those things, we all just sit around and we dream about it, you know, and people have said stuff like this, like, what if a collector, what if one of us was running a grading company, and of all the grading companies, PSA, right, which like is, you know, they're killing it right now. And so we always wonder, like, what if somebody like Nat did something like this? I've heard people speculate about this for years, and then it actually happened. You know, it literally actually had, like, it's pretty cool, man. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it the best way, where it's like a holiday gift for the hobby. You know, and I know we were seeing a lot of posts and group chats and all kinds of stuff. It was a lot of the conversation that I was seeing was kind of like, okay, now what can we see? Like, what are the possibilities now? You know, all these things that we've all had in the back of our mind, or we've maybe whispered to each other or whatever, now seem like they're all, you know, up for possibility. You know, so, you know, I was hearing stuff about, you know, getting robotics into grading. I was hearing, you know, things about getting the turnaround times to be tighter. I was hearing things about something to be done with, you know, fee structures, and, you know, you name it. If there's an improvement, people were talking about how now it's possible, now it's on the table. You know, so I think it's just a lot of excitement, and, you know, we don't know what we don't know. Like you said, there's a lot for us to still figure out. This is just the announcement phase. You know, so certainly nothing's changing tomorrow or in a week, or, you know, probably not in a month either. So there's a lot to take place, but it's exciting to see what the possibilities could hold.
It is, man. What a year for the hobby. How about that? What a year.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. 2020 has been one of those years. And I mean, you talking about, you know, grading is one of those things that I think immediately people talk about seeing change. But I think that the next thing is possibly wax. You know, and 2020 has been a year unparalleled for wax consumption, wax breaking. I mean, just wax in general. You know, there's been no year like it. I know we were talking a little before we jumped on the differences from just a year ago. It was night and day. So literally, you know, when something drops, it's the day that it drops, it's not on the shelf, and it used to be, you know, months could go by. I mean, I remember I sent a message to you and Kyle asking, you know, what about the status stuff? Should I grab this? I don't know if I'm interested in this product. You know, in hindsight being 2020, I should have grabbed all of it, you know, because now I could be sitting on those Hainer boxes and I could, you know, but what a difference a year makes, right?
A huge difference. And by the way, status, for anybody holding it, status is meant to be ripped. Those packs and boxes are loaded with rookies. Christine and I just opened a Cello box, and we must have got at least every rookie one copy. We got 2 Lucas, got like 2 Trays, probably like 4 Kevin Knox. I mean, I have 49 cards from that box that I'm considering sending to PSA, and I just might. So open the status. It's just loaded with rookies, and it's a really good looking 90s-esque product. So free advice, worth exactly what you pay for it.
Yes, have some fun with that product for sure. So I think us, talk about Nat and his incredible collection, and we touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but we have got another PMG Green come up. So one of the big events on my channel was that PMG Green live stream. So that was with PWCC. We've got another one that's with Heritage, and I don't think we'll be able to do a live stream quite the same because Heritage auctions, for those who don't know, run differently than PWCC, where basically once the last bid has been put in, there's some time that is allowed for everybody else, so that way you truly get everybody to have a chance to get their latest and greatest bids and keep upping the ante. So kind of difficult to do a live stream for that, because that could last hours and hours longer than we originally thought it would end. So before I get any hate mail for why didn't you live stream this one, that's the reason why, because I need to go to bed and get up for work and get my kids up and all that stuff. So and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not up to date on all the details of the card, but I believe it's a PSA authentic. Is it altered like the one that Nat has? Because I know PSA deemed that one that Nat bought as authentic but altered. So this is just authentic, no numeric grade.
Correct. This one is PSA authentic, and Nat's is PSA authentic altered. One of the things to note about Nat's copy, though, was that there was plenty of disagreement among online commentators about whether it was or was not, in fact, altered. And even Nat, I think, made a determination that there's probably a pretty good chance it wasn't altered, that it just had natural wear that led to PSA to determine it to be altered, perhaps in an abundance of caution. You made me laugh thinking about the extended bidding. I've never bid on an auction from Heritage or Golden or any auction house that permits extended bidding, but I know some people who have, and they tell their war stories of sitting there waiting the 30-minute time periods to see if their bid is going to be outbid, and the agony of when there's 10 seconds left after you just waited 29 minutes and 50 seconds to see if it's finally going to close, and boop, somebody just outbid you. It's excruciating. So, and those auction houses are very different in a lot of ways than eBay. The auctions run for much longer. I think some of them run for like a month or multiple weeks, whereas on eBay we're used to 14-day, 10-day. I know eBay definitely does 10 days, and you can do 5 days and 1 days and 7 days. But this is a different situation here. Like, these are blowout slugfests that, and the other thing too that observers who maybe are new would note or would want to note is there's something called a buyer's premium, and different auction houses display it with different levels of prominence at different times in the life cycle of the auction. But with Heritage, they display it as like a footnote beneath the card's price. So you're actually looking at two prices. You're looking at the current bid, and then you're looking at a buyer's premium. A buyer's premium is an additional rake that the auction house collects above and beyond what the final hammer price is, and it's determined by a strict percentage. So I believe Heritage and most of the other auction houses in that elite tier have 20% buyer's premiums. And that means that the buyer is going to pay 20% beyond what the final price is that we see displayed when bidding successfully concludes. So if the PMG Green ends for $1 million, the buyer is going to pay $1.2 million. And I believe, like I said, Heritage shows what the buyer's premium is. Other sites don't make it as readily available. But what you will note that all the auction sites do without fail is after the item has sold, the price displayed flips, and then it suddenly incorporates the buyer's premium. So, like, before the PMG Green ends, you're going to see, like, hypothetically, 1 million plus 200,000. After it ends, you'll just see 1.2 million. So, that's worth noting when we're looking at historical data on auction sites and trying to compare it to current prices. Buyer's premium is a real thing, and it's worth thinking about because it can get very, very expensive on high dollar items. For sure.
Yeah, I mean that it's a different beast altogether with those, like you said, Golden and Heritage, which this one is sitting with. So I think right now it's sitting at $612. Am I accurate on that price?
Sounds right, and that's pre-buyer's premium.
Pre-buyer's premium, yep.
Add
and
another, add 120 grand onto that roughly.
Yeah, do you know roughly how much time we've got left? Obviously it could extend, but
I think it's over a week. I think because the last time I looked, I think it was 14 days, and that was a few days ago.
Okay, it's a little bit over a week. So do we dare venture into the prediction realm? I mean, so here's a question for you: What does Card Ladder? I know that the PMG Green last I looked was in Card Ladder. What does Card Ladder have for predicted value, if there is one? Because I know not everything gets predicted value in Card Ladder.
Yep. Well, you're right, but we do have a prediction on there. This prediction technically would be for a PMG Green Authentic Altered, because it's related to the sale that the February 2019 auction of Nat's PMG Green Authentic Altered. This is probably the least reliable prediction we have, or if not, it's very close, because what card could possibly... Like, the way Card Ladder's prediction works is it basically... We try to identify a much more inexpensive card that sells frequently, that its market growth would be representative of the market growth of the more higher-end card. And sometimes that works really well. Like, with the 2003 LeBron Topps Chrome, the Refractor is a much higher-end card than the base. Both are high-end these days. But throughout history, the Refractor has pretty consistently sold for 5x the base. So even when the base is like $12K for a PSA 10, the Refractor pretty consistently sells for $60K. So like that 5x multiplier holds over time. For PMG Green, we don't even have the historical data to be able to say, like, yeah, this multiplier has been consistent over the last 3 sales or something. We just have one sale of this PSA Authentic Altered, and then there were 2 sales that occurred way back in 2007 on eBay, raw copies, and then there was another sale that happened in 2015. But none of those were in the... Like, 2 were raw. The 2015, if memory serves, was PSA Authentic and not altered. And then the February 2019 was PSA Authentic Altered, with the caveat that people, like we said, maybe didn't even believe it was altered. So, like, there's no even approaching robust data set here. So, the way that we worked out the prediction, just to have fun with it, basically, is we looked at... We chose 2 cards to be the proxies. The first one is the Metal Universe base, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, you have the green, you have the red, then you have the base. So, like, one, we used the base PSA 10. So, we looked, and we said, okay, the green did 350K on February 20th. The base did 713 on March 1st. So, like, okay, there's a multiplier there of 490x. And then we said, okay, let's offset that, or let's mitigate that by also bringing in the 97 Platinum Portraits, which also comes from 97 Metal Universe. Yep. So we said the MJ 97 Platinum Portraits, insert PSA 10. That card sold a month later on March 20th of 2019 for about $7,000. So like, there's 2 multipliers, and we don't know if these multipliers hold at all over time. We just don't know. But there's 2 multipliers. There's one for 50x. If you 50x the price of the Platinum Portraits PSA 10, that's how much the green sold for at that point in 2019. And if you 490x the base PSA 10, and so using that math, using those multipliers, the prediction that Card Ladder has is 1.6 million for a PSA Authentic Altered. Now that's really tricky. Like, I think that's going to be way too high. One of the reasons is because the Metal Universe base card didn't start picking up steam until after that first green sold. So like, that multiplier is too high for that reason, and that multiplier is too high because this time around, I've seen in the Michael Jordan Facebook groups, guys are like, start buying the base version, guys, because last time a green sold, the base version went up. So let's start buying them now. So like last time the base went up after the green, this time the base is going up before the green. So like you have 2 upward pressures that are distorting this figure. And then, the Platinum Portraits, like, that's just such a wild card. But like, I brought it in just because, hoping that it would moderate the excesses of the base. But like I said, I think that prediction is as unreliable as it's going to get, and I think it's going to be way too high. But nonetheless, that's the prediction. There is a prediction out there. My gut check is $1 million range.
Okay. Yeah, the number that I had in my head was 1.2.
Okay.
And I don't know where when I come up with predictions, I don't know where they come from. So there's no logical process. It's just like a number pops in my head and like, okay, that's what I'm going with. So
yeah, that's how I do it too. Honestly, I have to. It's better to sit down and do math because then at least I can think that I'm avoiding my biases. But sometimes the math can be completely off. Especially in cases like this. But you remember when Nat won the PMG Green, I remember watching it. I remember it going to 350K.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being skeptical, rightly. I think we all were. Then Nat went on a blowout post, and he posted a picture of Elaine from Seinfeld, like doing this. And everybody was like, oh, wow. Okay, so it was him. And that changed the hobby.
Absolutely.
That day, that auction changed the hobby.
Yeah. It sure did.
We still feel the ripple effects of that sale today. And, there was a lot of discussion even, and I was one of these people too who said, could this card ever be worth more than $350,000? And we all kind of agreed numerical grade is not very important on this card.
Right.
In fact, one of the copies might even have been ripped up and thrown away, so there might only be 9 copies of the PMG Green. So it's just to have one is more than enough. And now we've got a copy at auction approaching $1 million. So you just you think the hobby can't go any higher, and it just goes higher.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the base version, so I remember. It was a few months before the PMG Green, Nat's PMG Green went up. And I remember my brother is a Jordan collector, and for whatever reason, here's a little bit of background for people ask me why I don't rip that product, and there's a multitude of reasons. But one of the reasons is when I was a kid, I didn't like that stuff. I was like, this stuff is too busy. Why can't it just be a regular Topps or a Topps Chrome, right? That's what I liked. I liked photography and stuff like that. I didn't like the way they looked, and it wasn't a very popular product if we remember back to 1997. And I think Jean even said this when she was talking to Josh. The hobby didn't receive that metal product very well, so they kind of changed it up with the next year. So I was never really a huge fan of that. My brother wasn't either, so he never had the Jordan base. So I was like, you know what? I'm on these fire sales on Facebook. So hey, you know what? These things sell all the time. $5 to $10. I'll pick one up for you, no problem. So I pick one up for him, $5, happy, get it shipped in. We work out a trade. He gives me 3 penny hoops rookies or who knows what. So that thing, as we were talking about, skyrocketed after the PMG Green. And he says to me, hey, what do I do with this card? Because you and I both know I'm not a huge fan of this card. I just wanted to have it because we're both completionists. He just like, I wanted to just have it, but do you think that this card keeps going up? And I said, dude, this is a base card. There's tons of them. This thing's sitting at $50 right now. There's no way this goes higher than $50 for a base card like that. Definitely move it. And he's like, all right, fine. He puts it up on eBay. It moves for $50 pretty quickly. And then we fast forward, and I mean, I've seen that card sell for $300 at times. Raw. I'm talking raw cards. Never mind, because those cards don't grade well. So if you have a card that grades well from that set, it's going to do significantly better. So now we're seeing people buy them back up because, they've kind of dipped a little bit, and we're expecting that they might, and it will be interesting to see what happens, what the ripple effects are after this green sells. Because I think we've seen some things, 2020 being a very anomalous year in the hobby, we've seen some things where people anticipate, whether there's a documentary coming or whatever the case may be, people are anticipating that cards are going to spike. They grab them, so it's kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy where, hey, I said that this card's going to spike. Look, we all grabbed them. It did spike, but it spiked not because of the factors that we were thinking. It spiked because, we were expecting it to spike. So people grabbed it, hoping to cash in. It will be interesting to see what happens if we do see those cards go up from where they are right now after that card sells.
Yeah, you almost start to think that this time around everybody was so prepared for it that maybe all of the extra value that would accumulate to it from the hype strain of the PMG Green is like it's already been built in. So I can tell you that the PSA 10 is Pop 101. It sold 3 times this month, the month of November 2020. It sold for $44.50, $4,900. And $47.50, and all of those at the time of the sale were pretty much all-time highs. So the card was setting records, or has been setting records for the last few weeks, and I just don't know. I remember as an MJ collector, a Pop 101 on a gem was high. Mm-hmm. If a card had that high of because Platinum Portraits, let's see what the pop is on that card. The Platinum Portraits PSA 10 population is 16, so mm-hmm. that's low, right, or pretty low. For MJ collectors, low pop is like 5 or something. Right. So Pop 101 used to seem high, but in the era of Luka Prism-based PSA 10 rookie cards, which currently trade at $1,700, and there's over 14,000 PSA 10s. In that era, Pop 101 of one of Michael Jordan's most captivating base cards is extremely low all of a sudden. So that card is coming up on 5K. Can it go much higher? I've given up on trying to predict things like that. Right. But I will say this: you mentioned documentaries and events. Well, LaMelo was drafted by Charlotte, mm-hmm. right? And LeVar Ball has said that he will take $200 million to play MJ one-on-one. So we may have another event in the making here, depending upon how things play out in Charlotte. Or maybe not, but I know the Mike Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fight, which has some analogs to a potential MJ versus LeVar one-on-one game, was perceived as a really big event among hobbyists, and definitely drove a lot of speculation to Mike Tyson's cards. So who knows? Maybe LeVar Ball will be the progenitor of the next Michael Jordan mania. Who knows? Wouldn't that be something?
Anything's possible this year, right? Well, I mean, we're going to be going to 2021 pretty soon, so who knows if it'll happen this year. But
for the record, I hope that game never happens. But,
yes, well, I think LeVar famously said that he could beat Jordan with one hand tied behind his back, and then Jordan at a camp, I think, said that he could beat him if he was missing a leg. So I tend to side with Jordan on this argument, too.
It's usually a safe bet.
Right. Yeah, the competitor in him will never die. That's for sure. Man, and one of the things that I think about too when we're talking about, the hype of the cards and, things going up before another big event, it reminds me of sneaker culture a little bit. And I've seen a lot of people. Gary Vee had talked about people getting into cards that were into sneakers. I think there's a lot of correlations between the two. And Gary Vee also, I'm sipping on a glass of wine tonight. And Gary Vee's also compared, wine collecting to card collecting. So, I think there's a lot of different things that have synergies in collecting. I see a lot of the same type of stuff. I know we were talking a little bit before we got on. There's a pair of penny shoes that just came out that I've been looking to get since when I was looking at them in 1999, kind of like the Metal Universe. I thought it was an ugly shoe. My dad offered to get it for me. I said, no, I don't like it. And then I was like, man, now I want it. So those are back. And I was like, this is not going to be a popular shoe. It's a penny shoe. It's not a Jordan shoe, all that kind of stuff. So I figured, no problem getting them. And I can't find them anywhere. So it gives this kind of like, I think it's giving a false positive. So if you look at them for retail, they're $160, but on resale, people are asking $300 to $400 right now. And I'm not an expert on shoes, but I heard from people who are that they're doing this weird like limited release where they're just like releasing them here and releasing them there in limited quantities, and then when they're gone, and they're kind of creating this hype around them where people feel like they're more limited than they really are. So now people are on the secondary market are able to boost up the prices, and then it's testing the patience of people like me. How long will we wait to get the shoe that I've been waiting for since 1999? So I see a lot of that with cards happen too. I think there's a lot of comparisons, whether you want to look at these pennies that I'm talking about, whether you want to look at the Jordans that come out for the holidays each year, Yeezys, I look at it and I think, I know I'm doing a lot of talking before I get to a question, right? I think about the Prism cards, right? So we just had Prism football drop. Right now, I think the last Herbert that I saw base was selling for a little bit over $200. And we've seen the same thing happen with, Zion and Lonzo when he was rookie. The history repeats itself year after year, and people keep falling into the same traps where when those cards first come out, people want to have them. They want to have that cloud of having the big rookie, his rookie card, and then as the weeks go on, those cards start, slowly dipping, and getting to a more reasonable level as more of that product is broken, more people get it in hands. So the perceived quantity of those, when they first break, is relatively low. You only know a few people that have them, just like with sneakers. When they first come out, you only know a few people who have them, and then all of a sudden, you're walking around the mall and you're, one of 5 people with the same shoes, and, you're in your chat groups and you're one of 10 people with the same card. So, what do you think? Are there synergies between the two collecting worlds?
Yeah, I have to say I don't know anything about shoe collecting, so I don't know. But we were talking before, and I was extremely intrigued by some of the stuff that you were explaining to me, kind of like what you just explained to me right there. And it brought to mind for me just how interesting it is that people will pay for clout, knowing that in all likelihood, especially with rookies, and especially with rookies on bad teams, that the likelihood of the player's value sustaining from release day compared to 2 months later or a month later is very, very, very low. So, the example that came to mind for me was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had this period of where he had captured the fascination of sports fans and in particular fantasy football. And ESPN's fantasy room, their guys, some of them had put him as the number 1 fantasy pick. So, as a rookie, the rookie card that he had out was Donruss. His first game, he put up big stats for the Chiefs, and that card shot up to 55 to, I think it might have even got as high as $70, maybe. It was turning over too, dozens of sales a day. And come 2.5 months, 3 months later, and you can pick that card up, that same exact Donruss card, you can pick it up on eBay, for 99 cents all day. So literally a card went from $70 to $1. Same guy, not injured. Some stuff has changed. Le'Veon Bell came in. We kind of realized Chiefs are still going to be a pass first, Patrick Mahomes machine, but still, people, I suppose, I think a great way to put it is, they paid for the clout of having that card early on, and we know these lessons, right? Like we all know that this is how it works with high quantity base cards, especially raw, coming out of a brand new product, is that the likelihood of those cards staying anywhere near what they're worth at release is very, very small. But I could show you historical example after historical example, and I'm sure that this Herbert's Prism base is going to be the same thing. Every time it goes this way. But there's people out there who pay those prices, and so I was wondering how that relates to sneakers, and to especially because like with sneakers, there's a little bit more clout to having it first. Like you get to wear them if you are a person who wears them, or it's just more conspicuous. If you have a fashion item, it's much more conspicuous to be. And also, like, seasonal stuff really matters, right? Like, whereas in cards, we like to think that as time passes, they go more of the fine wine route, and they get better with time. And I'm sure it's like that. I don't know anything about sneakers, so I should just shut up on that topic. But I wonder if you could teach me a little bit about how it works. Like, how do time horizons work with sneakers? Is there this peak and then this drop, and then, like, if it stands the test of time, it does well? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely far from an expert, but I know a little bit just because there are some shoes I really like. And I mean, the thing that you mentioned too with the clout, in some cases, like you said, sometimes people buy those not to wear. And in some cases, people will buy two pairs, so they have one pair to keep on ice, like they say, and one pair to wear. And, so with some folks, if you see them wearing them, now they've got two pairs. And you see that some of that with cards, right? I've got 10 Giannis's, so I'll show you one of them, but those other 9 you're not going to see. So, there's definitely some of that happens. But definitely, like I was saying with the penny shoes I'm trying to get, they retail for $160. There's that perceived scarcity. So on the secondary market, they're going for $300 or $400. You'll see the same thing happen with Yeezys at times where, maybe they're at release going for like $150, but then on the secondary market you're looking for $300 or $400, and then it depends on how popular that colorway actually becomes, because there's tons of colorways, or if there's rumors that the zebras are going to be re-released and there's going to be more of them, or if there's some sort of a nuance between the original release and this next release. So now the OG pair really still has an identifier, so those are still unique. So they'll retain their value, or if they're really more of one and the same, then it might deter the value, because it's just like printing new copies of the Ken Griffey Upper Deck Rookie. If there's some way to know that it's reprinted, then the original is going to keep its value. So all those things go into it, and I think it's similar with collecting cards in the sense that with some of the Prism, when we get some of the parallels each year, if we don't know what the print run is, it's kind of a guessing game. How rare are they really, and how much are collectors or investors going to care about that potential scarcity? So, like, I think this last year we saw it with the SP rookies, where I saw people posting in the first week or two, these are going to be rare. Based on what? I mean, I could take your word for it, and it turned out to be relatively true. And I mean, rare is a relative term. What is rare to me may not be rare to you, type of thing. But saying that it releases pretty hard to say with shoes, just like it is with cards if they're not serial numbered. And Jordan might say, hey, these 11s that they drop every single holiday, these are going to be the most produced sneakers. So then it really gets down to how popular is that colorway. So when you have one of the OG colorways that he wore, those typically are going to be more popular than one of the remastered colorways. And then over time, some of those get kind of like a cult-like following. So you might have like the cap and gown colorway, and I know I'm probably speaking Greek right now, but
I think I'm with you. I think.
Okay, so the cap and gown colorway might hold more popularity than the 7210 Jordan 11s. Now they're the same shoe, but it's a different colorway. So some folks will. I'm a big fan of the 7210s. I would love to get a pair of those. But when you see a picture online, it doesn't do it justice. It's kind of like looking at a refractor that you don't get in the light right. It doesn't do it justice. But when you see a refractor in hand, it's like seeing the 72 in hand. You're like, oh wow, those really pop off. I want a pair on my feet. The cap and gowns, they look great when you see them in a picture. They look great when you see them in person. It's just like seeing, let's say a base chrome card. You know what it looks like. You can picture it just as well online as you can in person.
Awesome. That's extremely helpful. So 7210s, that's obviously referring to the 95-96 season. Now,
Absolutely.
cap and gowns, or not 95-96, 96-97, or what? I don't know. I'm getting my years mixed up. One of them years.
95, yeah, I am too now. I think 95-96 was the 7210. Here's how I remember historical events in basketball. I remember seeing cards commemorating the 72-10 season in 96-97 Stadium Club. So I think it was 95-96.
That's the best.
I could be wrong. We'll see.
No, I think you're right. Because he came back in 94-95 season.
Yeah.
And then it was the year after, so I think you're right. And then cap and gown. Does that refer to... I don't know what that refers to. What does that refer to?
So the cap and gown refers to... It was a colorway that they came up with for graduation. So graduation season. They did the 11s in a cap and gown. They also did the 13s in a cap and gown. Those are the two that I recall. I think they might have done others. So basically it's an all-black colorway that has some patent leather and some, it's not a true velvet, but it's a velvet-like material, so it looks a little bit more classy, so you could wear it with your cap and gown is what they're basically saying. And they look nice. I've tried to coax my wife into getting me a couple pairs, and to no avail so far.
Now, has there been any innovations in the method of distribution like what Panini has tried to do with Dutch auctions? So Panini was failing to capture much of the secondary market gains when they would release their first off the line product to first come first serve via their website, only to see it sell for 3 to 4x almost immediately on eBay the same day in some instances. And so they came up with this reverse auction format, which caused a different set of problems. I remember it was a big PR issue in the hobby when the 2019-20 National Treasures first off the line was getting ready to come out, and the starting price was very high. I think it was $30,000. I don't remember. And people were like 30, and everybody was like legitimately worried that these boxes were going to sell out at like 20,000 or something, because the way that it works, as you and I know, but just in case somebody in the audience might not know, the Dutch auction you start at a price like 30,000, and then every 5 minutes or some consistent interval, it will go down $500. So 30, then 29.5, then 29, 28.5, 28, 27. It just keeps going down until it sells out. Anybody can buy a copy at any price until they're gone. And so usually there's like this scramble towards the end when everybody sort of settles in on what the price is going to be. And so Panini came up with this innovation. It didn't solve it solved some problems. It created new problems, because it created this idea that like Panini's trying to say that these boxes are worth $30K, which, on the one hand it started very high, but on the other hand, if they thought it was going to sell for pretty high, then you want to start it high so that like it has time to run and people can find out about it and stuff, I guess. But even with those boxes, the secondary market still was experiencing a markup almost immediately. It's just unavoidable. As soon as something gets on eBay, people just instantly, magically begin to pay more money for it. Absolutely. But I wonder, does the sneaker world have an equivalent to that, or did the manufacturers not even really concern themselves with capturing the gains from retail versus secondary market? Like, are there Dutch auctions, or is it pretty much just first to retail, get your bots ready, and then if you don't have bots, you better get ready to pay the eBay price?
Yeah, so there are definitely similar issues. So from what I know, the sneaker realm hasn't captured that ability to get that secondary price yet. There's definitely issues with bots, and I was actually watching a conversation where there are some sites that are, more easily botted. So the Foot Locker based sites are more easily botted, and there's other sites like, let's say, Jimmy Jazz that isn't. It's based on the Shopify base. So that's something I literally just learned a couple of days ago. And there are also groups starting to spring up, almost like collector groups, where they're kind of helping each other out. If you're looking for this shoe in a size 8, then if I find it, I might pick it up for you, or I might let you know, hey, here's the link. You can go buy them. Hey, by the way, I'm looking for this other shoe in a size 10. If you can help me out, type of thing. So there are groups starting to spring up like that, so that way they aren't getting, gaffed at secondary retail prices. And I'm seeing some of that happen with, people who are buying wax. If I go into my Walmart and I see, I know that you want Prism draft picks, and I see some, I'll grab a couple blasters. Hey, I'll send it to you for retail. I'm not going to make any money on it, but you're happy. I'm happy that you're happy, type of thing. In terms of some of the bigger issues that shoes had, so back when I was first trying to get the Concord, which is the Jordan 11, that was white and black. It's probably his most iconic shoe. I did my first article with Becca was about that shoe, and that shoe, I think it was 2011 it came out. My brother and I were living together at the time, and we both set our alarms. It was going to drop at midnight. We set our alarms to go online, to go onto the typical Finish Line, Foot Locker, Champs, all that type of stuff, to go and try to get it. And I remember we stayed up for about 2 hours. It was like 2 a.m. and we both looked at each other like, all right, we're taking an L this time. It's just not going to happen. We got to get up for work tomorrow. So that, what ended up happening with that is each store that got them got one pair in each size, each adult size. So there were lines lined up, and at midnight it was first come first serve. So if you were first in line, you come in, you say, hey, I want my 9. But it was kind of I'm making it sound more organized than it was. It was a mad rush, and people were getting jumped, stabbed, shot. Like, people were dying over a pair of shoes. So of course that's a PR nightmare. And nobody wants to, either at their mall, whoever's managing the mall, nobody at their store wants to see that happen. And the shoe companies don't want that PR nightmare on their hands either, because people are like, oh, well, you want people dying over your shoes? So they've alleviated that by going to a lottery system. So when there's a new release, especially with Jordans, whether you do it online or some of the smaller stores, you do it in person, there's a lottery. So you'll go and you'll get a ticket. You don't put any money down. It's just basically your chance to get your pair of shoes. So they'll run the lottery. If I want a size 12 in that given shoe, and I'm the only person that wants a size 12, I'm going to win that lottery for the size 12. But if there's 3 other people, then, I've got a 1 in 3 chance at it. So it kind of gives you even chances, and then they'll notify you, hey, you won this. So now you have the right to go claim your shoe until a given time. Sometimes it's the end of the day. Sometimes it's noon. If you don't claim your shoe, then it's up for whoever gets in there first. So again, it's kind of that gaming the system. If you didn't win any of those, then you can go into your local store when you know that time period is going to expire and say, hey, do you have my size? And if that person didn't come and show up, then you might get lucky. So there's a lot of stuff like that the shoe companies have done to try to alleviate the personal security issues, but the price point issues. I know I saw Kanye was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was talking about the Yeezys, and he was saying that his latest shoe, I think it's kind of a sandal, but it's a Yeezy, so it's going to sell. But he's selling it at a very cheap price. He's making it to be affordable. It's all I think it's all rubber, so there's no animal products to try to keep the cost down and also try to be eco-friendly and whatnot. But everybody's saying, that's great. You can have whatever price you want on retail. You can have it for $45, and you can try to say that it's going to be for kids who can't afford those sneakers so they can still have Yeezys. But the hype beasts are going to come in, they're going to grab them, they're going to put them online, and they're going to ask $250. So it's going to be the same issue. So they haven't really alleviated that problem yet. But who knows? Maybe they'll learn from us.
How would you feel about a lottery system being implemented for stuff like first off the line and even retail? Like, I've seen some Walmarts and Targets have posted like 1 per customer over the the retail product, sports card product, but that's obviously shouting into the abyss. So, like, what would you think about that? Like a lottery system for retail and for first off the line. Do you think it would work, or I don't know? What would be your thoughts on that?
I'm skeptical. Okay, I'm gonna. This is kind of, you get a conscious flow of thought here. I question how much real demand there is for wax. So I question if we had a lottery system where it's like, hey, I want one blaster, that's what I want. I want one mega, that's what I want. Would those really sell out at those SKUs? And I think that's what, the retailers, Topps and Panini, really want to see, is those SKUs sell out. I don't think that's going to alleviate any of the secondary market pressure. You're still going to have people that are going to go buy it because they see that there's a potential to flip it. It might help some people be able to get it at a more affordable price, at a more, equitable way. But I don't think it's going to alleviate the problem altogether, because then, how do you administer it? Do you just put it in for, you can only have one lottery ticket for a given SKU? Do you have that you can have a lottery ticket for each SKU? How much of the quantities do you have? So it's not a complete one-for-one. What I do like the idea of is kind of quantity limits at retail. I just think that makes it if you have people all lined up, they know that the given distributor in their area is going to be there. There's conversations as to how people know that they're going to be like Tuesday at 11 o'clock, but we're not going to get into that. So if they know that the person's going to be coming on Tuesday and they're camped out, and you see 5 people camped out, but the quantity limits are you can only buy 2 sports cards products, period. Then, Jimmy coming in, if there's 5 people there, there's only going to be 10 products that are going to be jacked immediately off those shelves. So little Jimmy coming in, or my friend who has a 12-year-old niece who wants to get into cards, he can walk in and has a better chance of being able to actually buy something just walking in. And my feeling is, I feel like wax is kind of the gateway. We could compare it to more illicit products, like it's like smoking weed for a lot of people who get into drugs, right? That's kind of your gateway. And then there's other levels of you get up to the PMG Green, and we can make the comparison of what that could be compared to. So you can't captivate, like, that's how I found my passion in the hobby, is by being given packs of NBA hoops in 1995. If I didn't ever have the opportunity to rip those packs, there's a good question as to whether or not I would ever get into the hobby, and if I would ever, do everything that I've done since then. And I think that we're kind of robbing a lot of people of that opportunity to get hooked, or if they know about cards and they're interested in it, to continue scratching that itch and see if it's something they want to get into. It's not completely gone, because there are some parents who are willing to go and pay the secondary market because they want to get their kid whatever they want. And that's great for those kids who have that ability. But I know a lot of kids who their parents either don't know as much. If they can't find it at Walmart, they don't know where to find it, right? They don't know to go onto eBay. They don't know that they can spend, $30 to get something that should be $10. They don't know. So it completely gets that kid out of the opportunity. So that's kind of the rub that I see, is I don't know how we alleviate the issues completely to make it so the card companies or the producers are seeing those SKUs sell at a rate that they would like to, and B, that the consumers who really want to rip those products are getting those in their hand at a price that's fair.
How about this? How about like you say, you put limits, and then if you want to buy more than the limit, you can, but you have to open the product in the presence of the cashier. So then
I like that.
It's forcing.
I don't think a Target cashier is going to care.
Panini has to plant a representative in every retail store to ensure that the product is opened. You make a very poignant point about how important it is for kids to be able to open wax of the sport that they love. And if it's basketball or football, and which is, the case for many of us growing up, and I'm sure many now, is the extent of the access to wax is like, I went shopping with mom, and they had some near the register, or whatever, at Walmart or Shopko back in the day or whatever, and and if that opportunity doesn't exist, that you're completely right, that person might never get into the hobby, and they might otherwise have. And I started thinking to myself, well, but there's always hobby shops, so like you can always go to the hobby shop, and just many hobby shops, whether they're supposed to or not, have retail, and they have it at eBay prices, so like you can buy it, but and I get the appeal of retail because it's much more cost effective, but the fun of going to a hobby shop is buying the hobby box, but
right.
That's not, or a hobby pack. How about that? Like, that's more affordable. Although even packs get into the ridiculous price range on like Mosaic and Prism and stuff like that. But I digress. But if we miss the opportunity to build the next Jake or the next Chris because flippers are raiding the supply at retail shops, like, we really want to ask the question, is that serving the long-term interest of the hobby? And it's hard to see how it is. And like okay, you could say, yeah, you can go to the hobby shop, but like you said, there has to be progressions. You start by getting a couple of packs at retail every now and again, and then you maybe Google and you learn that there's these other configurations, and then why don't they have hobby at Walmart? Oh, those are exclusive to like online retailers and to shops. Then you want to go to the shop, and then you're going to shows, and now you've got an eBay store set up, and now you're grading cards, and you're buying singles, and before you know it, you're a full-blown collector / hobbyist. So it's a problem, dude, I think, that you put your finger on, if we're denying people the chance to get access to this product as kids in the way that you and I did.
Yeah, and I mean, even going to the hobby shop, I think about, that's intimidating for people who are new to cards, new to sports. I mean, because some hobby shops are intermingled with comic books or Magic, things that have a different connotation to them, attract a different crowd. Not that it's a bad crowd by any means, it's just a different crowd that people, I think also, when I was doing my MBTI in my first year of professional life, I think I found out that, I don't know if it's in the US or if it's across the globe, but I think 3/4 or 2/3 of the population are introverts on some level of the scale. And introverts, and of course we're making stereotypes here, but typically like to go places where they feel more comfortable. And everybody, for the most part, feels pretty comfortable in a Walmart or a Target or a Walgreens, those type of retail settings. Not everybody feels comfortable going down to the bullpen. It's just a different atmosphere that, even if they know that's where I can go to get whatever it is I'm looking for, they might just feel like, oh, well, they're going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to try to, rip me off because I'm just a kid. There's all those things that kind of run in the back of people's mind, that if you just kind of break down those barriers, like we've seen in a lot of different industries, it makes it more accessible to more people. But I mean, I think the solution that we hold in our hands, right? I don't blame flippers, right? People use it to fund getting different cards in the hobby, to climb the ladder, so to speak. And I don't fault them for doing that, because obviously there's the opportunity, there's the demand there. But I think we hold the keys in our hands as the hobbyist to just like I'm trying to do with those penny shoes, just be patient, just hold out. Just say, no, I'm not going to pay $300 for something I know is $160. And if it never comes down to $160, or it never comes down to that price point that it was at retail, there will be something else that'll captivate your attention, and there'll be something else that you can use your money on that you'll enjoy just as much. So being patient and just waiting it out, waiting till those prices come down. I remember when Illusions came out, I was really intrigued because I saw Illusions football last year, and I said, ooh, I think Illusions basketball could look similar or the same. I'm going to really like it. And I just waited and waited and waited. And eventually that stuff sat with, whoever was trying to resell it. And I got it for, retail plus shipping type price.
That's a great success story.
It was a good success, yeah. And I pulled the Zion, and the Zion's not doing great, but I was happy to pull the Zion. It was exhilarating, and I'll admit I was disappointed with the design because it did not reach what football was last year. And I've seen football this year for Illusions, and I like that design better for Illusions than what basketball had. Mm-hmm. But I still like the direction. It's more like the Flare Showcase. But anyways, again, I'm getting off topic. If we just are patient and hold back and say, I'm not going to pay 3x or whatever, I'm going to set my line at retail, then we'll see less of it because there's just going to be less demand. There's going to be less lucrative opportunities for those people. And, they'll find a different way to fund their hobby or whatever it is they're funding. They're not going to, go hungry if we don't buy these products on the secondary market, but it'll help the long term of the hobby.
There it is. Well said, man.
That's the solution. We're coming up with solutions today.
We are. I don't know. I just kind of rambled a bit. I think yours is a lot better thought out, but good food for thought at a minimum. Things to think about as conscientious collectors, kind of trying to protect our hobby for the future.
Yep. Well, so I just noticed something that is very irritating. You're wearing a Bears sweatshirt. I'm a Packers fan. So
I did think about you before I put this up.
I think we're going to have to end this conversation because I can't talk to you anymore. No. I have some of my Packers stuff back here, and I'm hoping I can add to it. I think I shared with you I got a Reggie White card recently. And you were gracious enough not to give me too much of a hard time for that. So,
how can you hate Reggie White? He was a great player.
He was a great player, great guy. Unfortunately, left us before his time. But so we've been chatting here for a while. I think we've solved some of the ills of the hobby. In one felt swoop, I think we've talked about some of the hot topics. And hey, you dropped some exclusive breaking news about the House of Jordans, which I greatly appreciate that you bestowed me with the honor to break that to everyone. So, as usual, we like to end our shows here on 90s Bball Cards with a question of the day. And being our honored guests, if you would like to, I would love if you asked the question of the day.
Okay. So there's one obvious question of the day that I think people will naturally be commenting on this video anyway, so I might as well make it formal. And what does everybody think that the PMG Green Michael Jordan PSA Authentic is going to sell for at Heritage when it closes? It's closing soon, so no guesses after it closes, but before it closes, make your guess. See if you can beat Card Ladder's absurd prediction, which shouldn't be too hard. Sometimes it's better to just go with one's gut and one's intuitions rather than trying to use math when the data set just isn't there. But I would love to see people's guesses on what they think the PMG Green is going to sell for. So I guess I said about 1 million, you said about 1.2. Card Ladder's algorithm says 1.6. That's going to be too high. So let's see. What do people think? I'm curious to know.
I am too. The other thing I'm curious to see is who gets it. Is it, we've seen some institutional money, some funds popping up. Does it go to one of those funds? Is it an individual collector? I mean, does Nat decide to upgrade from his authentic altered to just an authentic? Who knows?
Wow, that'd be the long march to the PSA 10. Just authentic altered, authentic 1, 2, just upgrade. But there's not even enough cards to cover all the grades.
There isn't, right.
PSA graded 4 of them recently, all at the same time, and they got like PSA 4s, 5s, and 6s, if I remember right.
That's right, I did see that.
So I guess PSA 6 might be the highest graded. I think it is, actually.
That one that's ripped in half, if we tape that together, maybe we'll get a 10 on that, Who knows? Maybe they just won't notice that tape.
Right. There's still hope for a 10 because there's pieces yet to be put together.
All right. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you jumping on. This has been a lot of fun. I'm sure we will chat before that PMG goes off. But if we don't, Those numbers are locked. They are chiseled in stone. So drop your thoughts down in the comments below so yours can be locked in as well, and we'll see who wins. Maybe there'll be some sort of a celebration for whoever gets closest to it, right?
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
We'll chat later. Thanks.
All right, man.